So hi everyone, and welcome to our first Amplifying BIPOC Voices in Sustainability event of the new year and of the spring semester. ABVS is hosted by the Social Sustainability Coalition, an intern team inside the UW-Madison Office of Sustainability. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight for our conversation on Black entrepreneurship. Before we jump in today, we at the Office of Sustainability want to acknowledge the lack of racial diversity both within our team and more widely our office. This reflects a larger trend across campus and in mainstream environmentalism in which the necessary and valuable voices of Black and Indigenous people of color who have long led the fight to protect our communities and environment are excluded. We've created this series in an effort to recenter these voices within our own campus community. We would also like to acknowledge our land that the university occupies by reading our land acknowledgement. The University of Wisconsin-Madison occupies ancestral Ho-Chunk land, a place their nation has called Dejope for time immemorial. In an 1832 treaty, the Ho-Chunk were forced to cede this territory. Decades of ethnic cleansing followed when both the federal and state government repeatedly, but unsuccessfully, sought to forcibly remove the Ho-Chunk from Wisconsin. This history of colonization informs our shared future of collaboration and innovation. Today, UW-Madison respects the inherent sovereignty of the Ho-Chunk Nation, along with the 11 other First Nations of Wisconsin. In addition, we believe that it's important to acknowledge that sustainability is not just about the environment, but it's also inextricably tied to social and economic factors and influences. This series will help to illuminate those facets of sustainability. We'd like to emphasize that this is a safe space. All opinions, feelings, and experiences are welcome to be shared. For today's panel, we have two incredible guest speakers, Martinez White and Harry Hawkins. Each entrepreneur will present for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll open up the panel for discussion. To begin, we'll have Martinez introduce himself. The floor is yours, Martinez.
All right, everybody, let's get it. I'm excited to be here. I want to thank Harry for being here. I want to thank the Office of Sustainability, Morgan, the whole team, Tim, Nina, Gwen, everybody that's been a part of putting this together. I'm going to ask to make sure that our chat is working because we're going to take this thing up to 1,000, but we got to start somewhere. We're going to start at 200. So hit 200 if you're, just go to your keypad and make sure your keypad is working. Hit 200 and drop that in the chat because we're going to take this thing up to 1,000. I'm excited to talk about my business, Intuition Productions. As you can see, I have my background in the back. Think Like a DJ is a book, one of 2 books that I've authored. And I want to dive deeper into what it means to be a Black entrepreneur, not just here in Dane County, but globally. And I want to have a discussion about the mantra of Intuition Productions, which is dreams are made to be achieved. What is the dream and what are we achieving? What are we working on at Intuition Productions? Why are we laboring so intensely and intentionally? It's because of this idea that a dream is made to be achieved. My name is Martinez White. I'm the CEO at Intuition Productions. I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I had a chance to get admitted to the University of Wisconsin-Madison as a 16-year-old, a little bitty old college kid. I was 16, I came on campus. And I loved every bit of it. I joined Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the oldest and coldest fraternity in the world, which I share in a fraternal bond with Dr. King. And we'll talk about Dr. King and why this is all important to this mantra of dreams are made to be achieved. I'm a People Program alum. I'm a Chancellor Scholars alum. Shouts out to any of you who are on the call that our Posse alum or First Wave students or People students, CO students. This is all what we call Ubuntu. We are many creating the power of many from creating the power of one from many. And I'm gonna dive into my presentation. So we just went up to 300. I don't know if you realize, but we up to 300. So drop 300 in the chat because we're on our way to 1,000. I want to start with talking to you about Intuition Productions and what this all means for me. I believe my screen is sharing. I'm actually going to enable my chat so I can watch the chat. Okay, we on 300 right now. So we're going to take this thing up. What is Intuition Productions? what his dreams are made to be achieved. We're going to talk about that as soon as I can make sure that I can see my chat. There we are. Let's dive deeper. So we're going to reach deeper and reach higher really quick. Welcome, as I said before, Intuition Productions is a multimedia edutainment event planning business. Edutainment is education and entertainment meshed together. We plan events that attract and retain people of color, millennials of color, young, Black, and gifted people who live in Madison for the purpose of going to school, but who typically leave the area. We call it brain drain, who go to Chicago, LA, New York, Atlanta, who leave and go to Texas and never return. I have a stake in the game in the sense that I'm from Wisconsin, as I mentioned before. This is my hometown, and I'm excited about building equity and social equity in this space because this is where I built my brand. This is where I believe a lot of people are going to relocate to because of our fresh water source in the Lake Michigan area and the Great Lake area. I want to pour into my state as my state has poured into me. I'm a 2010 first generation college grad of UW-Madison. I studied communication arts, the radio, TV, film side. I have an Emmy Award for some work that I produced for a television, outstanding children's programming. Also picked up Afro-American studies and African studies as a second major. I love Black people, y'all. I've been Black for 32 years. And I just think it's something unique about our resilience and our ingenuity. My mom raised 6 Black children in the inner city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And she raised us to believe that we could be anything that we put our minds to. So that background and that upbringing of being poured into by a Black woman, by my grandmother, Olivia Smith, my great grandma, Big Mama, Dolores Gaines, all of those women, Dr. Mercille Lee, Dr. Jackie DeWalt, who both brought me to the University of Wisconsin and gave me a chance as a 16-year-old Black kid from Milwaukee. I wanted to learn more about us, and I picked up a lot of Afro-American studies courses. It resulted in me having a second major in Afro-Am and African studies. I lived abroad. I studied abroad in Kenya. I did HIV testing for Alicia Keys over in Mombasa, Kenya at the Bombo Medical Clinic. So that allowed me to pick up an African studies certificate. I'm an author of 2 books, Think Like a DJ, 7 Steps to Spin Poverty into Prosperity. If your life were a party, how many people would RSVP? If you're only going to live once, will your one party become a party of one? Your life is the party and you standing behind the turntables of life with all these different experiences and songs that you have to blend together to keep you in sync and in harmonic and melodic sync with your ultimate destiny. All of us know our history. Don't many of us know our destiny if we don't pick a tempo and we don't first envision where we're going to go. That's what it means to think like a DJ. I wrote this book at the start of the pandemic, and I'll tell you a little bit about it as we continue to go. My second book, I Fired My Boss, is currently in production. It's a 7-step guide to ignite the CEO in you. No matter if you work for someone, no matter if you got a supervisor or a manager, you have to be your own boss in this new economy. You have to put yourself in the driver's seat of your own destiny, which is what it means to fire your boss, to become your own boss from the inside out. So I'm an author, and I own the Dream Shop, a storefront on State Street at 444 State Street. Come and check us out. We have motivational merchandise. I sell my books there. And also got a coloring book that's produced by my 5-year-old son, Harlem. Harlem would love to see you stop by the store. Come hang out with us on the weekends. We're there from 12 to 6 o'clock, right on the 400 block of State Street, 444 State Street. If you know Jay-Z, you can't miss the store at 444. Living local, less than 0.5% of businesses in Madison, Wisconsin are Black owned. Did you know less than 1% of businesses in Madison are Black owned, according to the Urban League? The life expectancy for Black men in Madison, Wisconsin is only 54 years old. Life expectancy for Black women in Madison, Wisconsin is only 60. My dad was one of these guys that labored so hard to push the culture forward. He passed away at 60 years old. As you can see, this is a challenge. The social determinants of health, the income and racial wealth gap is astronomical. A Black family has about a tenth of the net worth of a white family. A white family at $171,000 of net worth is nearly 10 times greater than that of a Black family at 17,000. This is in 2016. Imagine where it is now, considering the pandemic. Nonetheless, dreams are still made to be achieved. Intuition Productions was founded in the summer of 2003. During my high school years, it was me and my best friend, my homie Randall, was going to high school together. I said, bro, you know what? I think we could do something with our time besides just hang out in the neighborhood. We can create something. We can produce something. And we have to produce something from a spirit of epiphanic value. We have to be able to dream it, see it, believe it, and then manifest it. That word became intuition. I said, that's a cool word. So we became Intuition Productions, where dreams are made to be achieved. That just by having a dream, that it is already inherently made and created to be achieved. We don't want to leave our dream sitting up on the shelf. We want to activate our dream. We want to put our best foot forward and create from the abstract realm a concrete reality. That's the beauty of living in this country. That's what I learned living in Africa and living in a developing world. Living here in the Western world, you have the ability to create a rags to riches story and a reality. Now, it's not a meritocracy. That doesn't mean everybody is going to have the same opportunity to ascend, but it does give you better odds. And living in this developed country gives you the opportunity to create something from nothing. You all have heard of Tyler Perry. You've heard of Steve Harvey. You heard of Oprah Winfrey. You heard of all of these people. You heard of Dwayne Wade. You heard of LeBron James. People who have manifested something from nothing. You've heard of Ida B. Wells. You've heard of many of our sisters, Harriet Tubman, who created something from nothing. This is an opportunity that we have in this country that's really unique. And if we didn't have it, why would people try to steal it from us so much? If we didn't have that opportunity, why would racism and bigotry we have something in this country. That's why people fight tooth and nail to make sure that you don't have it. Our story is simple. Here at Intuition Productions, our story is very simple. Our mission is focused on inspiring 1 billion people, not million, but 1 billion people to feel limitless while achieving their most abundant destiny. To feel the limitlessness is what we want. We want to cultivate a feeling of no cap, right? Through the power of edutainment products and services. Our vision is to complete the dream of Dr. King through economic inclusion and financial justice in Dane County and beyond. Dr. King not only focused on what we know him to focus on, what we've learned about all our life, social, civil, and voting rights. His fourth pillar of success, his four-legged stool was not only social, civil, and voting rights, it was economic justice, economic inclusion, financial justice. That's why we're here today. Our corporate social responsibility statement is there, as you can see. Our goal is to focus on hiring BIPOC staff while recruiting and training a diverse first generation and recent college graduate employee and intern pool. Ultimately, our goal is to teach principles of financial fitness. I'm a licensed investment advisor. I worked for 3 years at Northwestern Mutual, learning how this country works and figuring out how our economy progresses, how it regresses. I want to teach the values of what I've learned as a financial advisor to my generation, the millennials, and the next generation of young people that are growing and moving into the economic ascendance and intergenerational wealth. I want to teach that not just to the BIPOC community, the QPOC community, the LGBTQIA community. I want to make sure that those who are traditionally exiled and excluded from the American dream, we have to have access and we have to have agency. Our products and services are simple. Intuition Productions, our products, our tangible products, our self-help books, our coloring book, our motivational merchandise, our t-shirts, our dream candles. I'm a meditator. I believe in seeing things before you can manifest them. I believe in intuition and the power of thought. All thoughts become things through the power of desire. That's a quote from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, a book that I read often. That's what that means. To manifest from a thought space, an idea becomes a concrete reality. Before we had a light bulb, we used to have candlelight on a Christmas tree, right? And then Christmas trees would burn up because the candle would hit the tree and it would burn up. someone created a filament, although it may have taken this person 10,000 tries. What is your candlelight that you can turn into a light bulb? What is your candlelight idea that you can manifest into a light bulb? That's what the meditative space, that's what our dream candles do. They incite and inspire you to think deeper, reach higher. Our digital products are our international podcast, our Think Like a DJ mixtape podcast. We've had Hollywood producers on the show. We've had local artists on the show. And our services are simple: wedding and corporate DJ services. I've been DJing for the last 15 years, playing music. That's why I wrote the book, Think Like a DJ, youth and corporate keynote speaker opportunities. I love to speak to young people, and I love to speak to our next generation of visionaries. This is a little bit more of our work. Come on now, we got to take this up to 600. Put 600 in the chat. I think we left off at 3. Drop 600 in the chat. Harry gonna take us to 1,000. Our work is very simple. As you can see, these are some of our most recent events. As I said, edutainment, education, entertainment. We want to attract and retain y'all, young people of color. We want to attract and retain millennials of color, Gen Z, digital natives, whatever you may call yourself. Just don't call yourself a failure, because a dream is made to be achieved. And we know that your vision and your dream for a better future, it can only manifest if we first pick a tempo. Where do we want to start? Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? We cannot rock the party and get to step 7 of the book, Think Like a DJ, if you don't know how to pick a tempo, if you're scared to drop your first record, if you don't know how to ride the wave or keep spinning hits, or you don't know how to get through those other steps, you'll never get the chance to rock your party. So what you see in front of you is a couple of different images of me rocking the party, some of our events. You see the coloring book here, the Think Like a DJ coloring book. That's my little boy, Harlem. And this is the Dream Shop. This is what you'll see if you come hang out with us on State Street. You'll see myself or one of my interns hanging out in the store. You also get a chance to see some of these t-shirts, motivational merchandise and apparel. Of course, dreams are made to be achieved is our mother mantra. But then we've got other things that inspire us. Not only are you a student, we don't deal and live in the student space, we live in a scholastic space. As a chancellor scholar, once a scholar, always a scholar, as Dr. Lee would say. So these are different shirts and motivational apparel that you can wear. Dreams are made to be achieved hoodies, Black Women Are Magic t-shirts, the Black Feminist t-shirt. We're always innovating and dropping new merch on a monthly basis. Our successes are what you see here. 750 books sold. That's more like 800 now. I just sold 50 books. 75 coloring books, 60 motivational t-shirts, 40 dream candles, 5 dream hoodies. We got to get some more hoodies out in the community, y'all. These are our digital products. I Think Like a DJ mixtape podcast. We've got over 200 downloads. We got over 2,000 streams, streaming on 4 continents and 16 countries and 60 cities. If you can see this little map here, you see about 144 downloads, 77% here in North America. The only continent we ain't made it to yet. We got to get more streams in Africa. We got to get some in Australia. So if you know a friend, tell them to hit us up on martinezwhite.com and stream our service, or just find us on Spotify or whatever. Probably not Spotify, right? I don't know if we're messing with Spotify right now. Apple Music, you can find us there. You can get us on YouTube. Out of our products and services, our services are included in the music, as I talked about before. I've DJ'd over 2,500 parties over the last 15 years. On average, about 100 patrons per event, some 50, some 300, some 400. I've DJ'd for over 250,000 party goers. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to say thank you. You may have seen me in these spaces as an Emmy Award winner in some of our local publications. Visit me at martinezwhite.com. And let's manifest this dream of Dr. King, that we can have financial inclusion and economic justice right here in the States. Black folks helped build this country for hundreds of years. It would not be what it is without my ancestors and the people in my lineage. We deserve a stake in the game, and we deserve a piece of the American pie. So cut me a slice. With that, I must say that's 1,000. Drop 1,000 in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm gonna hand it back to my friend Harry and to my friends over at Sustainability.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we got to 1,000. I was a little concerned there. At first, I didn't know. I was thinking maybe Morgan should have had me go first. But thank you, Martinez, for believing in me that I could close that gap for you, to get everybody up to get everybody up to that space.
Yes, sir.
So my name is Harry Hawkins. I am the executive vice president at Nehemiah. Work with Reverend Dr. Alex G. And I'll just kind of open up with a little bit of my background, because people always ask this question. I was born in DC, but lived most of my life in the Atlanta area, around the metro area. And so people always ask, like, why are you here, right? Most people are leaving Wisconsin. Most Black people are leaving Wisconsin to go to places like Atlanta. And so really what happened was I came here because I got promoted in 2012 and took over a retail location. And long story short, I ended up going to the church that Pastor G, Fountain of Life, that he pastors, and ended up switching jobs and eventually got fired. And it was interesting because the first time I'd ever gotten fired. And I got fired because what they told me was I wasn't passionate enough. And so that's something, I've never really heard that before, right? A few minutes talking to me, like, oh no, this guy is not lacking passion. There's one thing he's lacking, it's not passion. But anyhow, what happened was I started my own small business consulting firm that landed me there at Nehemiah. What's interesting about that is that despite having a degree, a bachelor's degree with accolades, a folder full of awards, I could not get an in-person interview for a management position here in Madison, Wisconsin, right? And so a lot of times the rhetoric that we hear is that, oh, if we just get people good education, if we can just get them out of college, if we can get them here in Madison, we want to hire good people. And I found that really wasn't true. There were places that I applied to that wouldn't even give me a phone call to find out if I was worth interviewing in person. And so I started my own business, and it was really like my last ditch effort to stay here. I had former employers in Atlanta calling me, telling me, look, just come back home. Like we will make a spot. Look, name your price, come on back, quit playing games, just come with us. And I was like, well, I'm going to try this thing and see if it works. So I'm going to share, start my PowerPoint. Now, I don't have, my slides won't be nearly as electric as Martinez, but hopefully we can get some excitement here. One of the things that really drew me to Nehemiah, though, was purpose. This was what anchored me, it's what drew me. And so what happened was I got a chance to kind of really explore leadership when I was there. And what I found was that the skills that I had developed were needed in this space. And so what happened was Nehemiah was actually my second client. So I had started a small business. I was doing small business consulting, and I had one client, and then Nehemiah brought me on through a contract to do some work with them. And what happened was every time I did something or achieved something, like, man, that's really good. Can we get more of that? And so eventually I ended up being, my contract got extended, and then they just offered me a full-time position. But really what drew me to that work, what kept me there, was purpose. I had never worked at a place that allowed me to fully be me, and still allowed me to pursue really my entrepreneurial aims as well. And one of the things that I am a Star Wars fan. So if you're watching Boba Fett series, I haven't watched the latest one, so no spoilers in the chat, please. But I haven't watched the one I think came out today. But I think one of the episodes, Boba Fett said, you can only go so far without a tribe. And so the things that I wanted to do here in Madison in life, I realized that one of the things I need to do was have some people that could help me get to that point and to do those things. And so that's why I ended up working at Nehemiah. And for me, I am what I call an implementation specialist. So my business that I started was really about helping small businesses understand some of those things that they may not have access to. I have been everything from salesperson, customer service associate, to a retail manager, to a trainer, hiring. So I've done pretty much all the jobs in many of the businesses that I've worked at. And so I understood some of the things like how to hire people, how to create a good ad, because I had to struggle with that in my own lane. And so what I did was I started an organization called Human Capital Convergence LLC. Now, at the moment, this is probably one of my most successful entrepreneurial endeavors. It's still active. I just don't have time to take clients as much. And a lot of this work that I do here inside Madison is really going to be through Nehemiah and what we do there. But what's great about this is that it gave me a chance to really think through and prove some of my theories and work out some of the things I learned in school, but hadn't had a chance to really apply. But the idea is, like this circle here, there's typically, most people have their expertise. They know what makes things work. They just need some of that, just that one little piece to kind of complete the circle and make things work. And typically those pieces are contained with other people, right? And what happens is that if you don't know how to manage people, train people, inspire people, typically you don't know how to you're missing something from your organization. So that's really where I started, that got me into the work I'm doing now. And so one of the things that I've also done is I'm also an author. And so this is a novel. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, I launched this in 2020. It was like spring of 2020. And if you remember 2020, I know the pandemic seemed like it's just gone on and on. I call it the apocalypse, playfully. But one of the things that happened was when I did my book launch, we were doing a Q&A, and somebody asked me a question, say, hey, does this have anything to do with like the unrest and the struggles the Black people are having right now? And I was like, yeah, no, not directly. I was like, no. And they were like, oh. And it was interesting because what I found was that in leadership, in entrepreneurship, people, the broader community really were only interested in Black struggle. They weren't necessarily interested in coming to be entertained and instructed and enriched by Black people's fullness. They only wanted to hear about my pain, my struggle, but they didn't want to hear about a fantasy world seen through the eyes of a Black man. They wanted, some people call that poverty pimping. I'm not necessarily accusing people of that, but that's what it felt like, right? It felt like what I had to say wasn't important unless it was dealing directly with something that was about lack. And so I thought that was interesting. So for me, when we talk about entrepreneurship, when we talk about sustainability, I have found that in many cases, anytime you see the oppression of people, you typically also see the destruction of natural resources, right? So the same processes and systems and policies that oppress people allow our natural resources and our earth to also be exploited. And we talk about these two things as if they were somehow separate. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we don't really discuss our true history when it comes to this nation, because the only way our form of capitalism that we practice in the colonial period and then in the early American period worked was because you had land that was stolen, that was used, and then you had people that were used as free labor to work that land, right? Without those two elements, you wouldn't have had America become the super economic power that it is today. And so because of that, when we try to bring solutions today, we often really think too small, right? So as an implementation specialist, you may not have heard that, like, what is that? Well, when I hear, let's say Martinez says, hey, let's reach 1 billion people. Some people might go, God, 1 billion people. Like, I don't know if we're gonna do that. Like, I'm thinking, look, there's nothing impossible, right? The question is, how are we going to do it? What's the time frame? What do we need? If you told me you wanted to open a coffee shop up on Mars, right? I'm not going to say you're crazy. I'm going to start asking you some questions like, who do you know with a rocket, right? Who do you know who's going to pay for coffee in space? Because we're going to need some transportation and we're going to need some cash. So who do you know that has one or both of those, right? Because if we can figure out those two things, we can get the other pieces working. And so what happens, what's so amazing to me is that Black innovation has always created wealth. The issue that we have is that Black innovation has not always created wealth for Black people, right? When we talk about music, when we talk about art, when we talk about food and cooking, you can go to TikTok right now and find trends and dances that Black people started. So for me, the purpose that I have found that aligns with why I work at Nehemiah, why I still have my consulting business on the side, and even really connected with my writing, is that what I really want to do is help people really not even necessarily become rich, but just get stable and learn how to take their skill set and turn that into business, turn that into money, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that they are extremely talented, that they have things that are worthwhile, both in services and products. And so they really need to just get the right resources around them, get the right people around them, and understand the process. And I think Martinez said this earlier, but the rhythm, because a lot of times people think that they have to be on someone else's schedule, or they have to do things a certain way, but really it's about finding your own rhythm. And one of the things that I hope that comes from these conversations is that people find ways to support Black businesses that goes outside of white guilt, but or whatever type of guilt you might have, and goes more towards really having an approach where you want to build a relationship with that business, to understand and to really embrace and kind of partner with them, because that's one of the most amazing things about the businesses that I've had contact with, that I either own or do business with. Is one thing that I love above everything else about those is the ability to create those relationships, because it's through that social capital that we can actually, I believe, change the world. So that's just a brief overview about what I do and why I do it. And I'll turn it back over to our host.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both you, Harry and Martinez. Both of your work is so inspiring, and we really appreciate you sharing. So we only have about 20 minutes left. So we have some questions prepared. I will ask you two a broader question, and in the meantime, we invite the audience to think of some questions that you may have and to drop them in the Q&A. So Harry and Martinez, this is a little bit vague, but we were just curious what some either successes or failures have been as entrepreneurs in this space, particularly in Madison.
I'll say success would probably be, it's kind of a mixed bag. I don't have a story that's clean on either side, complete success or complete failure. One of the failures I had as a consultant for small businesses, that people did not see me as a professional. They assumed that I didn't know what I was talking about because I was Black. And so the success was that that business allowed me to have the time and opportunity to work with Nehemiah, which has led me to do the work that I do now. One of the failures, well, I won't say failures, but maybe struggles right now, is really with my writing, because I decided that I was going to write a book through an African-American lens. And that doesn't sound like a bad thing. It's a good thing, but from a book selling standpoint, in a fiction reality, what happens is my book doesn't fit neatly into any category. And so if you're trying to get an agent, that doesn't work. If you go to Amazon.com, there's not really a good category. There are books that I'm in that don't really match. Like there's it's almost like just a catch-all for Black people wrote these books. And so there's not enough work that's been done to differentiate the different Black literature for me really to even find the people who want to read my type of book. And so even to the point where some of the processes that people use to gain readership works if you write within that white framework. But since I don't and refuse to, because that's not what I want to write, it makes it harder to gain success. So, and then I've had people who, like I said earlier, really just, they were interested in reading my book when they thought it was going to be about, poor Black people doing stuff. And then when they found that it wasn't, it didn't seem like it interested them. And that's okay if that's not their genre. But I was kind of shocked that people wouldn't even be tempted to even just, flip through a few pages and see if it caught them. But anyhow, so those are my two examples.
How about you, Martinez?
That's really funny. That's really powerful. I don't know. Yeah. There we go. Can you hear me that well on my back? I think I'm back. You just asked me about sort of my successes and failures, right? So I will echo some of what Harry is saying. I think that some of the challenges are that white people gotta be comfortable buying black. Kind of simple as that. We got to get people who are comfortable to like new dimensions and not, having this sort of cognitive dissonance where they have a belief of what black products should look and sound and feel like, and just go with the flow, ride the wave, feel the beat, and just kind of hang out and, be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's one thing to feel comfortable and, when George Floyd is being murdered, or we marching in the streets and feeling comfortable to join a protest, it's another thing to vote with your dollars. So I would encourage people of the majority race and of white who have a whole white privilege. I would encourage them to just keep and like really invest and put their money where their mouth is, like my grandma would say. Vote with your dollars and be about what you talking. Times as people coming to my store for the sake of it's kind of a ostracizing. Just they want to kind of see what's there. It's almost this level of novelty that they just, I heard about this I heard about this this store, and I just want to know a little bit about it. But when it comes to purchasing and buying, that becomes an issue or a challenge. Can you still hear me that well, or am I still kind of choppy? I'm still good. So that's the challenge that I see, is that I want white people to feel comfortable being uncomfortable, because we do it all day. I live this. I've been black for 32 years. It's not gonna, and I think white people should think about how they can be more additive, and how many other black authors do you know? It's no reason everybody on this call shouldn't have a copy of Harry's book or a copy of my book. If you're a reader, it's no reason why. Or give me one, and then we can talk about that. So I'll stop there because I'm kind of choppy, but if I'm so choppy, I can always jump on my iPhone. That always seems to work. Well, I think we want to get to some more questions too.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Harry, that you bring that up about specifically white readers reading about Black struggle, because in even my English classes, particularly the senior year of high school, we'd read Toni Morrison, she's an incredible writer, but writes all about, Black struggle. She does write a little bit about celebrating Black life, but what we ended up talking about was the struggle. So that's a very interesting point. I think we have one question in the chat. Catherine wants to know, when did you first know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I think that's a great question. I don't know if there was a time where I knew it. I think I got in trouble for trying to be an entrepreneur before I had a word for it. So I think there were things like at the lunch table, I remember telling people I would eat gross combinations of food. If everybody at the table paid me a dime. I remember I saw the first time my first business started was selling candy at school. End of the year, somebody brought like a gallon bag of Airheads or something, and they were selling at the corner store, gas station for like 10 cents. He was selling for $0.25. And when I saw his bag was empty at the end of the day, I began calculating. I was trying to figure out how many Airheads did this guy sell in one day. And I was like, I got to get in on that. And so next year I had a whole duffel bag full of candy. I had High C, I had M&Ms, Kit Kat, Snickers, blow pops. I mean, I had all the bubble, hubba bubba. And so I think because I just grew up with business owners. My parents owned a business. My grandmother on my dad's side and my grandfather on my mother's side both owned businesses. For me, it wasn't even so much a matter of thinking about it. It was just something that you did if you needed to, or if the opportunity arose. So for me, it was just a reality that was always a possibility because of my family.
So I want to answer the question. It looks like my phone is working, so you might want to make that version of me a host so I can unmute myself.
You can be whatever version of you want to be, Martinez.
Yeah, so let's probably go with the yellow Martinez and allow that one to be a host so I can unmute that presentation. All right, there we go. We back. All right. I think the best way for me to answer this question is to think about my high school years. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur when I was doing sort of the same thing. I was selling honey buns and M&Ms, and at my high school, I had this Black woman teacher, Miss Toy Lisa Mark, in Milwaukee Public Schools, who empowered me to sell snacks in the high school, and that was like my first rendition of being a entrepreneur. But I could also remember from the DJ side and the music side, I was the kid that used to use my hands to beat on the desk and make beats in the back of the room. I'm the kid they used to tell to, stop making all that noise or cut that out. And I'll make thousands of dollars playing music for people. So like, be careful about those kids that you deflate their dreams. Be careful about those one-off Black boys who seem like they're not paying attention, or they not focused, or they aloof, or they, I was that kid. My mom had 6 children. Some mornings I didn't eat nothing but a piece of bread and cheese or some crackers I bought from the store on my way to school. You know what I mean? So think about what you're saying when you're saying it. You know what I mean? I knew I was an entrepreneur early on. I didn't have a name for the word entrepreneurship. Back when I was growing up in high school, entrepreneurs were thought of as the guys or the girls who didn't know what the hell they wanted to do. Entrepreneur was somebody that was like a hodgepodge. It wasn't a celebrated term. And it wasn't something that, we thought of as a good thing. It was the person that or where they wanted to be. So think of that when you engage with young people, because a lot of those young people are naturally disruptors of industry. And that is the bedrock of being an entrepreneur. We celebrate people like Elon Musk. We celebrate Ava DuVernay. We celebrate people like Jeff Bezos. Those are the disruptors of industry. Those are the same kids that are beating on the desk in the back of the class. You got to think about that. And how do we hone that skill and talent? How do we pour into the kid that's selling honey buns and selling, Snickers and the Boston baked beans? Y'all don't remember the Airheads. They don't remember Harry. So that's what I would say. That's what I knew. What other questions do we have? I want to get to some deep questions too.
We've got 2 questions. One is about your writing, and another is about, questioning the status quo through education. So we have 9 minutes. Do you think we can get through both of them?
Yep, I think we can do it.
Let's start with Eliza's question. She says she thinks it's so cool that you're both authors. She's curious to know more about what that experience was like for you and what inspired you both to write your books.
I could be really quick. So my inspiration came from Dr. Jasmine Zapata. It's a Black doctor in town. Look her up, amazing woman. I saw her at an event at Madison College. I was DJing the music, and this lady was wearing a stethoscope and had the white coat on, and I'm like, who is this person? Why she dressed like that? And she had she did a presentation on her being a Black woman doctor. But then when lunch came, all the kids, we went to the gym. She had a table full of books, like 600 books. I'm like, I thought you was the doctor lady. She was like, yeah, I'm an author too. So she didn't allow me to put her in the box. She said, you could be an author too. Imagine all 1,000 of these kids leaving with a copy of your book. You would make money as a DJ and you would sell 1,000 books. So call me and we can talk about opening up your streams of income, because most millionaires, 9 out of 10 millionaires have 5 to 7 streams of income. And you got one stream right here and you can have another stream just still standing here. So I worked through this company called Motivational MD Publishing. And it's the Motivational MD, the motivational medical doctor, is Dr. Jasmine Zapata. That's how I got interested. What about you, Harry?
For me, it really started when I was younger. Started with my art. I would draw, and it was really an escape for me. And short version is I would make my own characters. And when I was, I think, a freshman in college, I decided just to count and see how many unique characters I had made. And I counted 200. And I was like, huh. I was like, I don't think that's normal. I think I probably should do something with it other than just entertain myself. So I was going to do a comic book, but there was way too many barriers for that. So mostly my skills. And so I decided, well, I'll write a book. And so I just started writing from that. And I think also writing became cathartic for me. When I got to college, there was a lot going on. My dad died when I was 17, my junior year in high school. And so I didn't really start to process that death and mourn properly, probably until my sophomore year in college. And so writing became a way to get the poison on paper and out of me. So that's really where I started.
Cool. Thank you both for sharing. And the last question from Rose is, what suggestions do you have for those of us who want to be educators on how we can instill a drive to question the status quo, celebrate creativity, and make entrepreneurship more celebrated, especially in such a strict school system?
I'll tell you about my 5th grade teacher. This is how I got skipped from the 5th grade to the 7th grade. And I got admitted, to high school at 12 years old. And then I went on to become a 16-year-old college admit. It was this teacher, 5th grade teacher, Miss Robin Squire, through the Milwaukee public school system. And one thing that Miss Squire did for me, she kind of took the top off of my brain and opened my mindset, because she took me in the country somewhere. I don't know where the heck I was, but I was somewhere with one of my best friends, and we went on her mom's ranch here in Wisconsin. We drove out to the middle of nowhere, seemingly to me being an inner city kid from Milwaukee. And we rode on donkeys and we played with goats, and we went up to this big hill and looked out over the prairie. And that all came from this woman who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She poured into me without asking for anything back, unknowingly. So, some of those kids who deal with early childhood trauma, like Harry was saying, he lost his dad as a teenager. I lost my dad as a 3-year-old boy, and I was dealing with early childhood trauma. And one thing that Robin and Ms. Squire taught me, she just taught me that there's life outside of the city, and that there's this sort of transcendentalism that lives in the countryside. And that is what I connected to as a writer. My book is a self-help book. It's a spiritual right. And it comes from a space of spirituality, and some of the American authors, transcendentalist authors. I wouldn't have been able to find that voice had I not had that early investment from someone who believed in me beyond what they could see in me at that point in time. So pour into the kids and, give them parameters and open their minds up so that they can see beyond the environment that they currently exist in.
Yeah, I like that, and I think my answer will kind of partner well with Martinez's answer, because when I talked about selling candy in high school, I sold candy from 8th grade until midway through my 11th grade year. Never had any fights. No, never had anybody steal candy. I didn't let people leave their wrappers all over the place. But what happened was it was against school rules. So I was selling candy against school rules. And when I got found out, they took me to the office, and the administrator told me that essentially if I didn't, kind of get in line, that I'll be selling Kit Kats today and crack tomorrow. And I was like, really? Like, do they sell cocaine at Walmart? Because that's where I buy my candy, right? Like, what do you mean I'm gonna be a drug dealer? I was in FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, and they didn't see me as a entrepreneur. They saw me as a behavioral problem. Now, mind you, I didn't get in trouble, right? There were 2 times in high school I got in trouble. One time because I wouldn't say while I was laughing. One of my friends farted. I didn't want to call her out. She was a pretty young woman. I just didn't want to embarrass her like that, right? So I got detention for that. And then the candy thing. I graduated high school with a 3.49. I was in the magnet program. I wasn't a bad kid, right? And not saying that bad kids don't have value too. What I'm saying is, if you can't even see the value in somebody who's a good kid, good grades, who's in FBLA, right? And they never asked me how. We couldn't even carry book bags. I was using psychology to get my bag in and out of class. I carried it openly. I just carried it like the girls carried their purses. I took my book bag and the little mini duffel bag and walked right into class with it. And so instead of being celebrated, I was chastised because I was outside of the expectation for behavior. And I think so often what happens in our school system, we expect kids to, I'll say it this way, this is going to be a shorter way. We're trying to cook and clean fish before we caught them. So many times we want non-white children to obey and respect the system, and we haven't made relationships with them. We haven't seen them. We haven't expressed that, hey, I see value in who you are and what you're doing, even if it's not exactly the way we wanted to do it. Because when you're talking about being an entrepreneur, that means you see the world differently. Where other people see problems, you see solutions. When other people see constraints, you see a wall to climb up on to get a higher view. So those people just process and think and act differently. And if you don't understand that energy that you're seeing, that distractedness, if you don't understand that child, then there's no way you can be able to really move them and motivate them. And so I would say some of those things that might be problematic, I remember I could not, I was bad at directions. I just couldn't do it because my mind would wander. But I was building stories when that was happening, right? I would see something, my brain would start building things and putting things together. And so I got better when I started driving, but I was embarrassed one time when a friend's mom had to take me home and I couldn't exactly tell her how to get there. It was a struggle. But that same ability to kind of imagine pieces, what allows me to create implementation solutions with seemingly out of nowhere, right? So I would say if you want to inspire children and celebrate creativity, you have to give them space to be creative. You have to advocate for assignments and things to be done in a way that's non-traditional. Because if you don't have the space to be creative, then what you're saying with your actions is that it is not celebrated and is not desired, right? Don't show kids opportunities besides just go to college on how they can do things. So that's what I would say.
And like that, I like how Harry said it earlier. If you hear a kid that say they want to go to bars, don't make them feel awkward. Just ask them who do you know with a rocket?
Right. Right.
That's amazing.
Harry or Martinez, do either of you have any closing words? Anything you want to share with us?
I think I want to say that obviously people on this call are advocates for change, and they in the abolitionist space. They want to abolish the old way and create something new. And I ask you all to lean into that dream vision. What does success really look like? Define it. When I go to a gig and I'm going to play music for 1,000 people at a wedding, before I get there, I kind of envision what the space looks like, who's going to be there, what the dance, music should sound like, what the slow jam should sound like. I see it before I manifest it. So pour into that vision. What is it that you really want and why? Like define that, write that down, put it in your notes on your phone, mull over it, watch YouTube videos that help you create this vision, because everything is impossible until it isn't anymore. What is that impossibility? What is that dream? What is that vision that you have deep inside, and learn the why behind it and work to build on it and manifest it. Because we all have a dream, and a dream is truly made to be achieved. It's not made to just sit somewhere dormant, collect dust. It's made to activate. So I'm asking all of you, whatever that dream is, think like a DJ and get out there and spin that party. If your life was a party, how many people come into the party? Because you just can't be the only one at the party sitting up in the front of the room in a pine box, cold casket. We want to make sure that you got people there when your life is over. You got people that's on your dance floor that's celebrating you and pushing you off into the next dimension. So think about how you can have more impact and more touch points by first, defining the dream and then working to manifest it.
And I would say closing thought would be, if you want to support Black businesses, build a relationship with that business, become a brand ambassador for them. Because a lot of times Black business owners are dealing with so many different hurdles that they may not have all the tools they need to get that product out, that business out. But if you build a relationship with them, maybe they could benefit from understanding your experience with their product, with their service, what have you. I'm not saying to correct them, but just build a relationship with them so that you can help them, one, spread the word, and also you can help them understand how people are interacting with their brand, because that sort of information is invaluable and it's very much needed. You don't necessarily have to have 50, Black businesses that you support, but if you supported one or two and you were loyal about it and you were excited about it, that's a huge thing, because just having that social proof can make all the difference for Black entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Thank you both, Harry and Martinez, for taking the time to talk with us today. Both of your work is so inspiring and amazing. You always fire me up. So we are actually unsure what our next ABVS event will be, so please keep your eyes peeled for that. But hopefully you'll all be able to attend. And please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at SustainUW. And again, thank you all for coming, and have a good rest of your night.